What's going on, fantasy people? Nick Capozzi here. This is Razzball Radio Fantasy Sports Network. It is Thursday, so I am flying solo. On tomorrow's show, Sky's going to join me. We're going to talk about things we're going to look at over the weekend and also give you some start sits. But today, going to go over some news, going to go over the Thursday night game, and also some daily fantasy plays that I really like that you can play at DraftKings. So first, real quick story. So I get up, 5:30 this morning, and I drive out to, a coffee shop to grab a coffee, and I'm in suburban Phoenix. I'm not in the city. And as I'm driving, again, really nice suburb here, I see Superman. And I'm not kidding. I was wondering if I was having some sort of lucid dream. Anyway, Superman is standing on the corner in one of those full, muscled suits, like the real Superman suits, carrying a boombox. And I thought, okay. And he kind of waved me over, and I'm like, yeah, no, thank you. So I sit down, have a coffee at the coffee shop, and I'm writing my notes for the show. I'm there about an hour, and I drive back, and Superman's still there. So I'll actually tweet out a picture of that, because I was trying to stealthily, take a picture of the guy. Didn't want him to see, because I didn't want him, to start flying at me, and I didn't have any kryptonite in the car. So speaking of kryptonite, apparently the offseason back surgery for Tony Romo has been his. Or maybe it's the interceptions he keeps giving up. Or maybe it's the fact that DeMarco Murray's look so good, it's making Tony Romo look worse. But he set out Wednesday's practice with back tightness, again, in that surgically repaired back. I guess I don't have to say surgically repaired back if I said he had back tightness, right? Okay. But he is expected to practice today and go this weekend against St. Louis. Here's an interesting note. 5% owned Davante Adams of the Green Bay Packers. Mike McCarthy actually said he has earned opportunities and produced. He is a go get him. Also, in that same conversation, well, actually, no, not in the same conversation, there was talk that perhaps they're overfeeding Jordy Nelson, at least the ball. I don't know what they do with, lunch at the Packers facility, but he's got 30 targets in the first 2 weeks. So I could see a situation, Cobb's going to play in that slot, and he's only going to get so many touches, and he'll produce in them. But Davante Adams can become that number 2 wide receiver. Really like him, especially against Detroit this week. Again, 5% ownership on him. Go get him. Go get him. You want me to wait while you do it? Okay, good. Okay, here's an interesting stat, and I apologize to the person who put this out on Twitter. I should have got the name. My bad. I apologize. But it was a really good point. Gio Bernard, he's off to a great start. I mean, the yardage is there, but he's only got 2.7 yards per carry. Holy cow. That's not good. You know what that tells me? This is going to be a running back by committee, and they're both going to get opportunities. They are just going to slam that running game because the defense is so good, so they just want to keep the clock running, earn that time of possession. But I can see Jeremy Hill becoming the main rusher in that attack, and sooner rather than later. Unless there's a setback, looks like Eric Decker's going to go Monday, but it is the Monday night game, so you should have a backup plan. Carson Palmer's still limited in practice. This really, it sucks. And the reason is that could be such a high-powered offense. I've got shares of Michael Floyd and Andre Ellington all over the place. It affects Floyd more than it does Ellington. I mean, Stanton couldn't connect with Floyd last week. So that is a concern for me. Keep an eye on that because there's a lot of quality skill players in that offense, and they need Carson in there. Damn nerve problems. Jonathan Dwyer deactivated after getting arrested. I'm not going to go there. You can Google it, but another domestic issue. When it rains, it pours for the NFL. But look for Stephon Taylor to get the touches that Dwyer was getting. And I think, Andre Ellington's still the main guy there, but you are going to see a second running back, especially around the goal line. And Taylor can, he can stuff it in. So he's going to be an interesting guy to watch. Multiple teams looking at Bryn Jarvis, Green, Ellis. Now remember this. Mike Zimmer, the head coach of the Vikings, used to be the defensive coordinator with the Bengals, so there's a relationship there. There's he knows him, so I could see him winding up in Minnesota. That could be an interesting play to go get him. Marshawn Lynch sat out yesterday's practice. Just keep an eye on that. Again, I mentioned this a couple times. If he were to miss time, Turbin is the guy that's probably at this point in the season going to get the touches. But watch out for Christine Michael. I'm telling you. I hope Christine Michael doesn't become my David Wilson, because 2 years ago, I was infatuated with David Wilson, and the talent was there. We saw it when he was healthy; he just couldn't stay healthy. But I've been saying all year, go get Christine Michael. Do it. Edelman and Vereen both limited Wednesday, but both should be good to go when you want them to go because they're going up against Oakland. Arian Foster is dealing with a hamstring issue this week. Apparently it's not too bad, but he was dealing with rib injuries the first 2 weeks. I'm feeling Alfred Blue, baby. He's up to 3% ownership from 1%. I actually like him today, too. We're going to talk about him when we get to Daily Fantasy. Alfred Blue is the guy you should go and get 3% ownership. At some point, Foster's going to miss time. I mean, there's certain things that always happen. You know, the earth rotates around the sun. There's 365 and a quarter days in a calendar. You know, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, and Arian Foster gets hurt every year. Alfred Blue. Kelvin Benjamin dealing with a knee injury, but it doesn't appear serious, and you definitely want him to go this week against Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh's defense has not looked good. That has not been a steel curtain defense. It's more been kind of like a linen, you know, not even like a cotton, but like, you know, those sheer linen kind of drapes. Yeah, that's the kind of curtain they've been. All right, we are going to get to the Tampa and Atlanta game after the break, but listen, just putting this out there. If you are interested in playing daily fantasy, which you should be because it's outstanding, you want to play at DraftKings.com. Enter promo code Razzball when signing up because you get a first-time deposit match and an entry into the contest we play every Sunday. So you want to do that with us, DraftKings.com. We will get to the daily fantasy plays this week. We will get to the Thursday night game. We'll get to everything you need to know. That's what we do here. You require information and knowledge, and we bring it to you. I'm not saying it's coming from my own brain, but I put it together, I package it up, you know, put a nice little bow on it, you know, take it down to the UPS office, get a tracking code, and I send it to you. That's what I try to do here via the television, the televisor. You know what I'm saying? All right. I'm Nick Capozzi. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick Capozzi, NickCapozzi. This is Razzball Radio. This is the Fantasy Sports Network, and this is me saying we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, Razzball Radio Fantasy Sports Network. I'm Nick Capozzi, and let's talk about some of the things that I'm going to be ogling, observing, if you will, in tonight's Thursday night matchup, Tampa Bay plus 6.5 and Atlanta. I'm tempted to actually play the Buccos in this game because Atlanta looked so good beating New Orleans week 1 at home. Then they looked so bad on the road. And you know what's funny? People talk about teams that don't play well on the road. Man, Atlanta's like the poster child for that grouping. I mean, holy cow, they looked off. Now, Cincy's D is awesome. But New Orleans, even though they started 0-2, we can talk about that another day. But man, they looked really bad last week. I was very unimpressed with that defense. And if, you know, Bobby Rainey can go for 144 yards against St. Louis's front seven, I'm curious to see what they do against Tampa or against Atlanta. Now, the reason I'm not touching that game is because Atlanta is at home. I mean, it's so up and down. So, you know, that one scares me. If this was in Tampa, I'd be all over those points. You know what? If this was in Tampa, I might have that game as a push. But anyway, both these teams kind of weird me out. Kind of like Superman did this morning. All right. Atlanta looks so good. I talked about that. Okay. Here's what we're watching tonight. So Lovie Smith. Now here's the thing with this Tampa offense. Because Lovie Smith is such a good defensive mind, his teams were always, even when he didn't have the talent in Chicago, man, could those teams play good defense. So I got a feeling this team is just going to ground and pound all year. You're going to see the big wide receivers, Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans, get opportunities in the red zone, but this is going to be a ground and pound team. So he said he's going with a running back by committee tonight, which on the surface makes sense to me because if you're going, you know, to try and run off the game clock and rush the ball consistently, you need more than one running back, especially when Doug Martin hasn't looked very good. Sorry to say it. He's one of those guys that, you know, year one looked fantastic, but, you know, it hasn't been good since. So I want to see what I'm curious tonight. Here's one of the key things that I'm watching in tonight's game. What percentage of the touches is Bobby Rainey going to get, assuming Doug Martin is healthy? Now, Martin is supposed to go tonight, at least as of, you know, the time that this is airing. So what percentage is Bobby Rainey going to get? And is there a chance Bobby Rainey just runs away with the job? Because that's not out of the realm of possibility. That could happen. So that is something that we're going to be watching tonight. Another thing that I want to watch, because I have shares everywhere. In the fourth round, in a ton of leagues, I got Roddy White this year. I liked him for a big bounce back, dealing with the hamstring injury. How does he look tonight is going to be key. Does he look healthy, or at least 85%? Does he look like he's trending in the right direction? Because if not, I'm gonna be concerned. If Roddy White has a hamstring injury or issue for the rest of the season, that does not bode well for him, or for that matter, Julio Jones. Because I like Levine Toilolo, the tight end. He's interesting because, I mean, the guy is huge. He's like 6'8", 270. That is a big pass catcher. But if Roddy's hurt, in terms of proven guys, I'm petrified that Julio is going to get just attacked by defensive backs because there's no other options there. And you think, okay, well, pass the ball to Jaquiz Rodgers. He's run well this year, but he only has, I think, one catch. So, anyway, watching what Roddy White, if he looks healthy tonight. Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans. Rookie wide receivers. Here's a standard answer when people talk about rookie wide receivers. Oh, you got to wait 2-3 years. I'm not buying that anymore simply because college offenses look so similar to pro offenses. It's a much easier transition, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's pro offenses have adapted to be like college offenses. But here's something interesting. Similar stats for V. Jackson Evans. 8 for 87 for Vincent Jackson, and 9 for, no, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. V. Jax, 9 for 86, and Evans, 8 for 87, or one of the two. But curious to see which one of those guys blows up first. Because Vincent Jackson is one of those guys, he gives you very little one week, very little the next week. Then you have a monster game, 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. So does one of those guys blow up tonight? And which one blows up first? Because Mike Evans has that blow-up ability. He's got some dynamite in him. Steven Jackson averaging 12.5 touches per game. Not rushes, touches. Which way is that going to trend? Devonta Freeman looks really interesting. We haven't seen a lot of him, but in the few touches he did have against New Orleans, he looked really tough, especially when he was getting tackled. He looked sturdy. So I'll be curious to see where that goes. But Jaquiz Rodgers, he's looked pretty good running the ball. So Steven Jackson goes down. Everyone's thinking Freeman. And Jaquiz he's a little guy. He's a wee one. But yeah, there could be opportunity for him to get a lot of rushing opportunities if Steven Jackson did go down. So I'm just saying, yeah, Freeman's the guy to own. Again, we talked about the sun rising in the east, setting in the west. Hope I got that right, by the way. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. If something happens to Steven Jackson, because he gets injured a lot, it could be a situation where Jaquiz is actually the guy who's going to get those touches as opposed to Freeman. All right, you guys ready to talk a little daily fantasy? I am. Okay, good. Don't forget, DraftKings.com. Enter promo code Razzball when signing up. If you haven't played this before, this is the easiest thing you can do. You go to DraftKings.com, you sign up, and you put in a couple bucks. Again, enter promo code Razzball. They'll match your initial deposit. And what you do is you get a $50,000 team budget, and then you go and you fill out your roster based on that. And it's with $50,000 of DraftKings dollars, you can't put an all-star team together. So you got to be really selective with who you put in. Looking for value picks. You want to have a couple wild cards in there. So let's start with the quarterbacks. In terms of high-priced quarterbacks this week, there's 2 that kind of interest me. Now, this is a place where I don't mind spending a little bit of money because I always find with DraftKings I can get a little bit more value with my running backs. But in terms of high-priced quarterbacks this week, Aaron Rodgers is the most expensive guy, $9,200 at Detroit. Now, it's on the road, but it's at Detroit. Have you seen their secondary? Yeah. So I can see a situation where Aaron Rodgers has a really big game, like 4-touchdown game today. $9,200. I got no problem spending on him. The other one, this one kind of surprised me. Peyton, $8,800 at Seattle. That's the 4th most expensive quarterback on the list. I think after Seattle's loss in San Diego last week, they're at home. The crowd is going to be into it. I think it's going to be close. Not going to be like last year's Super Bowl, but I'm not spending $8,800 on Peyton. Not at Seattle. Spend the extra $400, get Rodgers versus Detroit's defense. I mean, that's not even close for me. All right, here's a value quarterback for you. Cam Newton, $7,400 versus Pittsburgh. Talked to you earlier. Steel curtain doesn't look like it's made of steel. So I like Cam for $7,400. I think he is about to have a big game, and it could be this week against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's defense hasn't looked good. Here, quick question. Name 3 Pittsburgh defensive players. Go. That's what I thought. Okay, this is Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. We'll be back, break down more this daily fantasy stuff right after this. Hi, guys. Welcome back. Good to see you. I'm Nick Capozzi. This is Razzball Radio. This is the Fantasy Sports Network. What we're doing right now is we are breaking down some of the DraftKings plays, daily fantasy plays for this week's games. We are still in the quarterback right now. I'm looking at value quarterbacks. Here's one I really like. Tom Brady, $6,900 versus Oakland. Have you seen Oakland in the last 2 weeks? Yeah, that's what I thought. Tom Brady could be primed for a big game. And when we get to the tight ends, I'll talk about Gronk. But they've been really conservative with Gronk. And I can see Gronk having a big game today. Tom Brady, $6,900, like him. I got a couple wild card picks for you here at quarterback. Again, you got a $50,000 budget. I don't mind spending on quarterback, but Geno Smith, $6,100 versus Chicago. It's not bad. I'd still rather pay $9,200 to get Aaron Rodgers this week. I really like that pick, but you know, if you really like some of the plays, you got a wide receiver and running back, and you got to kind of skimp and save a little bit of quarterback. Geno Smith, $6,100. And here's one that's not crazy. It's going to sound crazy, but it's not. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah, I said it. I totally said it. $5,400 versus the Giants. Now, I kind of like that. Ryan Fitzpatrick's got 3 touchdowns this year. How many interceptions does Ryan Fitzpatrick have? Goose egg. Giants haven't looked good. If the offensive line for Houston plays well, Fitzpatrick could have an interesting game. Anyway, it's not crazy. It's in the realm of possibilities. You want crazy, go down to my corner today and see Superman. Serious. All right, running backs, high priced. DeMarco Murray at St. Louis. If Bobby Rainey can rush for 144 yards against St. Louis's defense, what is DeMarco Murray going to do? He's the most expensive running back this week, but I'm buying me some DeMarco. He's like a 5-star play. I just created a rating system. There you go. And he's the only high-priced guy that I think is worth spending on today, but DeMarco will be in my lineup. I'm going to see a situation probably where I'm going to go with like Aaron Rodgers, DeMarco Murray, and then get into some of the value plays. Oh, here's some value plays for you. Okay, value play running backs. Alfred Morris, $6,100 at Philadelphia. He's looked pretty good. And, Philly's defense is not too bad, but Indianapolis was able to move the ball. When I say the running game these days, it's, the rushing, but also, these short passes have become an extension of the running game. So, I can see Alf, although Alf doesn't really catch the ball, but I can see for $6,100, it's at least worth considering. Here's another one I really like. Darren Sproles, $5,200 in that same game versus Washington. That's good value for me, especially, this guy right now is the number 5 ranked player, not running back, player on Yahoo, and I don't expect him to go for, 150 yards, but he's going to get opportunities, and sometimes that's what you want, especially with your running backs when you're playing daily fantasy at DraftKings.com, is you want to make sure that you are getting the guys who are going to get the touches, right? You don't want to swing and miss with running backs. Chris Ivory, $5,000 versus the Bears. That's an interesting play as well. I see the upside there. It's been like right down the middle, the split between Chris Johnson and Chris Ivory. But I think Ivory, when it actually gets down to the goal line, is the guy who's going to punch it in. Speaking of punching it in, with Mark Ingram being injured, everyone's talking that Kerry Robinson is going to take over Ingram's role. And I could see that situation happening, but it doesn't mean he'll get the goal line carries. Or that they'll actually run it over the goal line as opposed to passing it. So Pierre Thomas, $4,900 versus Minnesota. I was kind of liking Minnesota coming into the season, especially with Mike Zimmer there as the head coach. But that has yet to materialize. I'm a little bit concerned, and I think New Orleans is going to come out angry, very angry. So I think with the whole Peterson situation in Minnesota, this could be the beginning of a spiral for the Vikings. Well, maybe the last 2 weeks were. Or last week versus New England, pardon me. So PT, $4,900 versus Minnesota. I like me that one. Now we get into the wild cards. Just talked about New Orleans. Kerry Robinson, $3,900 versus Minnesota. Remember, that's half the price of DeMarco Murray. He could punch in a TD or 2. Now that's going to be a gamble this week. But again, you got to take some risks when you're playing daily fantasy at DraftKings.com. So Kerry Robinson could punch in a couple of touchdowns. That's not crazy. I also like Donald Brown at Buffalo, $3,500. Buffalo's defense is legit. But San Diego looked pretty good beating Seattle last week. So I actually kind of like Buffalo in that game. Yeah, I think I spent too many years watching the Bills. But Donald Brown, $3,500 like that. Robert Turbin, this is a total wild card. But remember, Lynch has been dealing with this back issue. Okay, you might get nothing but number 2 running back carries out of Turbin, but he will get some touches. But if something happens to him, to Lynch, $3,300 for Turbin could be interesting. And then here's one I really like. Talked about how bad the Giants have been. They look awful. My father-in-law's a Giants fan. I feel bad for you, Bruno. Alfred Blue, $3,000. Because remember, Foster, dealing with the hamstring, had been dealing with the ribs. So give me some of that Alfred Blue. Okay, wide receivers in the high price category. Jordy Nelson, $8,400. But again, it's at Detroit. Yeah, give me that. Give me that. Dez Bryant, $7,700 at St. Louis. I like that too. Dez is always limping around the sidelines, but he is primed for a big game. If Romo's back holds up, I mean, that offense has to explode at some point. It has to, right? Has to. Fudge. Better. Okay, value plays. I'm expecting a big game out of Jeremy Maclin. I don't know if it's going to happen this week, but Maclin I see trending towards a big game, $6,400 versus Washington. Alshon Jeffrey, if that hamstring is healthy, the Jets secondary has not looked very good. $6,400 there at the Jets. Wes Welker, $5,600 at Seattle. I don't want to start people against Seattle's defense. Forget about what happened last week, but they couldn't stop Antonio Gates. And okay, I know Welker is not Gates, but if he's going to be playing out of the slot, and I could see him, he's back from suspension, I could see him getting fed the ball. All right, we're running out of time. I got to go through quick here. Hakeem Nicks, $4,600 at Jacksonville. Like that one a lot. Wild cards, Devontae Adams, talked about him earlier, $4,200 at Detroit. That could be a big sneaky play for you. Jeremy Curley, someone's got to catch the ball. If Decker doesn't play Monday night versus Chicago, $3,400. Jericho Cotchery, $3,000 versus Pittsburgh. The guy had 10 touchdowns last week. Pittsburgh's defense not very good. Cam Newton having a big game. Okay, tight ends, high price. Jimmy Graham. I got to start talking fast now. Do it like an auctioneer. Jimmy Graham, $8,000 like that versus Minnesota. Value, Gronk, $5,900 versus Oakland. Do it. Big game. Bennett, Chicago, $5,200 at the Jets. Dwayne Allen, $4,600 at Jacksonville. Wild cards. Witten, $3,900 at St. Louis. Interesting. Garrett Graham, $3K versus the Giants. Toilolo, $3K versus Tampa Bay. That's what I got for you. So we had to rush it. Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Back tomorrow with Sky. We'll talk about things we're watching this weekend and start sits. See you tomorrow, guys.